If you've ever felt like giving up on your photography, then you are not alone. But before you down the camera and quit photography for good, let me make the case of why I think this is a mistake. Hi, I'm Adam and welcome back to First Man Photography. Now, before we get going today, this video is sponsored by Squarespace. So if you need a domain name, a website or an online store, make your next move with Squarespace. So I want to split this video up into two parts. The first part is going to be discussing the issues, why people are rightly feeling like this. And then the second part of the video, why I think photography is thriving and potentially better than ever. Let's start with some of the problems, because the camera industry, for example, is in real trouble. Camera sales have declined by about 90% in the last 10 years, and there is good reason for this. I've talked about this many times before on this channel, but I think the main problem is just the abundance of new photographs. We're really talking about the value of a photograph here in monetary terms. And when you have abundance, it reduces scarcity, and scarcity creates value. There is a fundamental truth here as to why some of the photography industry is struggling. And that fundamental truth is that the price of digital content will always trend to zero. And a way to, I suppose, illustrate this point is to think about a movie. So you imagine a movie studio and they make a film, they spend, I don't know, $100 million on making a film. That then goes into the cinema or to the movies. And you decide whether or not you want to go and spend money on seeing that film. So let's say you spend £15 to go and see the film in a nice seat in a nice cinema. You've paid for seeing that movie. And then the movie does what it does in the cinema, and then as time goes by, that movie will then go for sale on something like Amazon or Blu-ray or Apple, that kind of thing, where you can buy the movie and essentially own a digital copy, although that is questionable as well, whether you do actually own it. Then as time goes on, the value reduces further to the point where it then goes on a streaming service, something like Disney Plus. And if the movie's not good enough, sometimes it'll skip straight to that stage and go to those subscription services. And eventually it might go on TV for free. But there's also another level under that as well, and that is downloading. So illegal downloads, essentially, where there is no value whatsoever. This happened first with the music industry, where people used to buy CDs and things like that, and records and vinyls. And then Napster came along. Digital music happened, and people started downloading it for free, because the price of digital content will always trend to zero. And the truth is that subscription models are a last-ditch effort to maintain the value of digital content. But as we know from looking at some of the subscription numbers of things like Disney Plus, Netflix, that kind of thing, those subscriptions have hit almost saturation points, and lots of people are starting to cancel those services, including me, who cancelled Netflix this week. And I've got to say, it feels really good. I tried it on my website with my masterclass as well. I initially made the masterclass and sold it as a standalone product. You could get it on a USB stick if you wanted. But then those sales dried up. So I decided to flip that into a subscription model when I created the Raw Room. And over time, that did well for a bit, but I didn't really like the subscription model. So then I flipped that into a value for value model. That's another stage where I essentially give you all the content for free. And then if you like it, you can decide to support me. That service still exists on my website now. I've got a members section. We have group chats and meetups and forums and all that sort of stuff. There's lots of stuff you can do, but that's not the point. The point is that over time, all digital content will trend to zero in terms of price. And that is the same with a photograph. But because now there's so many photographs, there's so many great photographers making great photographs, a lot of photographs just start their life with no value whatsoever. A photograph now, rather than being a product that a photographer creates, it's essentially a piece of content. It's almost been commoditized. So photographs are just content. They're not something that people actually want to buy, at least in the digital space. And that's tricky. It's really tricky because it's driven down the cost of photography right across the board. The first one to fall was stock photography. You try making money with stock photography now, it's just not going to happen. Commercial photography is getting harder and harder. We talked about this in the last video. Harder and harder. There is still some opportunities out there, but it's getting harder and harder. There's still opportunities for professional photographers to do things like event photography or wedding photography, but the images those people are creating have no monetary value other than to the person who wants it. So I think when that fundamental value of photography starts to fall, it puts pressure on the industry, it puts pressure on the camera companies. People start buying less cameras and things because there's seemingly been a reduction in photography generally. But I don't think that's the case. The reduction in value from a price point of view, from a monetary point of view, is only in the photograph. I think photography is thriving, and we'll talk about that a bit more later, because that's not the end of the problems. Now I'm going to talk about what's still brilliant about photography in just a minute. But as you know, this video is sponsored by Squarespace. Now, in my opinion, Squarespace is just the best place for photographers to build their own website. And I think now is a really great time to build and start a website because, like I've been saying, social media is just appalling these days. It's a terrible place to be. The algorithms are awful, and the way they treat your photography now is almost criminal. But by having your own website and building it yourself, you can share your images with the world in exactly the way you want. Big, bold, and beautiful, front and center on your website. And the beautiful thing about Squarespace is it's just so easy to do. You can use one of their really beautiful templates to get going on now. They even have AI tools to help you along the way. They call it Design Intelligence, and it will help you create a custom template. It will help you write copy. And often doing the writing is one of the hardest bits about creating a website, but the AI system will now help you to do that. But then if you want to, you can grow it into an online store if people want to start buying your work. Things like on things like books or prints, which we'll talk about a bit more in a minute, calendars. You can sell services as well, like workshops and tuition. Anything you need to do on your website, you can do it with Squarespace. I've been using them for years. I just wish I'd found out about them much earlier in my career. So hit the link down below or go to squarespace.com and you can start a free trial. Build your website. If you like what you've created, you can then use the offer code FIRSTMAN. Yes, that's right, FIRSTMAN. Tell them that I sent you there and you'll get 10% off your first purchase. You'll have seen probably online and on blogs and things like that, and possibly on this channel, I don't know, talk of photography being dead, basically because of AI. Now, I've talked about AI and I've been around the houses with it. When it first sort of burst onto the scene with the Nvidia stock price going through the roof, I took notice, and to be honest, I was a little bit concerned because, it's further pushing that value down to zero because it's creating these images just like that, and they're getting better and better over time, and I think that will continue. But I've kind of finished on the fact that I don't think it's a big deal. But it's not as simple as that because I use AI services like ChatGPT every single day now. They're extremely useful. They're better than search engines. And they do create images as well. Not that the images are that good, but they are getting better. The reason I think AI is not going to do all the things that we're afraid it will, like Terminator 2 style, there's two reasons for it. Firstly, I think some of these tech companies and people out there generally who are kind of pushing this AI agenda have dreadfully underestimated human desire, or people's desire for human stories, that human connection to the content. Me talking to you now through this lens is not AI. Me editing this video, not that there's going to be much editing on this one, AI has nothing to do with it. It's just me talking directly to you. And I think that connection is super important, and it's not going away. I've said before, if you see a really beautiful landscape photograph, but then you find out that it's been made by an AI, I think you'd lose interest immediately. I certainly know I would. When I look at a landscape photograph, what I enjoy about it is that photographer's interpretation of that scene and knowing that that place is real. And that's an experience that I could go and see and go and have myself. I think that's the appeal of landscape photography. It kind of puts the viewer in the position that the photographer was in to see those beautiful landscapes. I think that's the point. And if you knew that AI had done that, the interest is going to fade almost immediately. It's the same with music. It's the same with stories. It's the same with pretty much anything that's created by AI. I have no interest whatsoever. The second reason I don't think it's going to do all the things that the fearmongers say it's going to do is a physics thing, basically. It takes a lot of energy to run these AI models and services. And energy is not abundant. We're approaching the end of the oil age, and energy is expensive, particularly in the UK. And that's why everything's getting worse, because energy is expensive. We need energy to do these things. The only way AI will do all the stuff we're talking about is if we discover a new form of energy. Cheap, abundant, dense energy. That's my prediction. Could be wrong, but it's based on going down some serious rabbit holes with energy and AI. And yeah, it's just a summary of what I've been thinking about and looking at more recently. Let's talk about commercial photography again for a minute. Commercial photography is basically, at the heart of it, photographs, images used to sell stuff. Now, you can create an interesting image to sell stuff with AI already. So already that's putting pressure on those commercial photographers. It's reducing the value of their work. Secondly, there's a lot of AI tools and things going into cameras now where it becomes easier to take an image. So the role of the person behind the camera is democratized, and more people can do it with lower skills. It's a little bit like coding, writing code. Doing that with AI, I can do it. I've been doing it on my home server, and I'm just telling it what I want, and it does it. And that kind of thing is unthinkable. Like, I'm useless at writing code. Useless at it, but I can just sort of work with it and it makes it happen. And that's now happening with photographs. People with not as much skill can get good images, and a lot of companies are bringing their photography back in-house. They're not paying a photographer 5 figures to do the shoot. They've got a little setup in the company, someone with some sort of semi-skills to work it all, and they're creating good images that are being used to sell product. That's amazing, isn't it? If you're running a business, that's incredible. Why wouldn't you do that? Why would you pay a photographer 50k when you can pay an intern minimum wage to create an image that's only a little bit worse than what the 50 grand photographer would have done? It's insane. It's insane. And it's like, it's going to change the industry with commercial photography. And there's only going to be a few of them left. It may happen that just as people get a bit older, they'll stop doing it, naturally retire. But the opportunities for the young people coming up from above to replace them just isn't there. And there's loads of people taking great photos, like I said. So with that abundance of easily attainable photographs, the value of the actual image gets driven down further and further. In a way, it's kind of depressing to think about, but it's just a natural progression that your digital photograph is nothing more than content. That's how we've been treating it for years. We go out, we make a landscape photograph in a beautiful location, and we're desperate to post it because we know it's good content. We know we've got a good image, it's good content, and people are going to enjoy it for a few seconds and give you a like on social media. And the feedback loop makes you feel really good. People might even comment saying, "Wow, Adam, great shot." And I'm thinking, yeah, it is. I really like that one. Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. That is a feedback loop that's like a drug, and it never gets old, really. But it's not real. That's the thing. It doesn't have that much meaning. And I've talked about this as the reason why I've quit social media, because over time, I obviously posted a lot of pictures and got a lot of likes, but it doesn't sustain you in a fulfilling and meaningful way. And this is where we get to why I think photography is alive and well, because the thing that does create meaning and satisfaction and fulfillment is actually the process of just making the photographs. And the content that we create for ourselves still has a lot of value to us, not in monetary terms, but this whole process and the image at the end has value to us personally. And it may do to a few other people as well. And that's such a special thing. I've been going round in circles over this kind of thing more recently, but every time when I go out and do landscape photography, one of my favourite moments is coming home with a can of images and processing them and just loving the experience of looking at the photographs that I've just made and crafting them and processing them into a thing that matches the scene and matches how I felt at the time, and being left with at the end an image that I just love. And I think it's so exciting. I am lucky enough to have 2 daughters and speak to their friends and other young people that I see around the various companies I'm working with. And photography is alive and kicking. Let me tell you that, with young people as well. They are excited about making these images. They're excited about creating. I said it the other week as well. They're not thinking about the outcome. They're not thinking about what am I going to do with this image. They just want to create it because it's fun to do. I think it's super important for us as adults not to lose that excitement, that childlike excitement of just making something. We don't need to worry what happens at the end of it. Although you do, I suppose, if you are a professional. But I think probably most of the people that I'm talking about are not doing photography full time. And I suspect you much better understand what I'm talking about here, because it's like I used to be. I used to go out and do my 9 to 5 or my shift work and just loved my photography on the side. We're all susceptible to that kind of value loss that's happening with images, with photographs themselves, in the digital space particularly. It's just about enjoying the process and enjoying the journey. And I just love going out and taking landscape photographs. It's so good for you. It's so good for you. In a time when the world's seemingly going nuts, bickering on social media, talking about personalities all the time, whether it's politicians or celebrities, focusing on this stuff that doesn't matter whilst ignoring the systems, the broken systems that are causing us the problem. It's really strange. And I think we all need an escape from it. And one of the best escapes from it is to get out into nature, break that screen time, get away from the phone and the devices and go outside, enjoy some sun, enjoy being in the landscape, connecting with nature. And if you can be creative and make images at the same time, is that a nice thing to do? Is that a meaningful and fulfilling thing to do. I mean, it really, really is. And as a little sweetener, a little benefit of it all as well, is that you're walking and you're getting exercise. And as someone who's now hitting their mid-40s, I tell you, like, my body does not hold up to the level of exercise that I used to do as a youngster. But walking, I can walk all day. And at the end of it, I've usually got a bit of a sore back, but I feel good. It's keeping the fitness going. It's keeping the joints moving, keeps me loose. Just walking with the camera, there really isn't anything better. And you can do that up until, well, towards the end of your life, can't you? Into your 70s, even your 80s. That's the plan. That is the plan for me. Up to now, we've talked about the value of photography in terms of digital. Just remember, the value of digital content will always trend to zero, and photography is way further down on that curve. We're talking about digital content there because I've been banging on about this for absolutely ages now. There is still value in physical photography. And in terms of that, I mean prints and books and calendars and things like that. So let's first think about prints. I've talked about this last week. They're difficult to sell. There's lots of people creating them. So there is still value there. But it's a challenge. It's a fun challenge. And when you sell one, it's the greatest feeling in the world. I'm going to be playing around. I think I'm going to do another video very soon about do prints actually still sell? And we're going to do a little experiment and see what works, what's the right price, that kind of thing. But when I go out taking landscape photographs, every photograph I make in that process, I now think that is going to be part of a book at some point. And books are just a great way to look at photographs. So every time I create that digital image, which I know is just a piece of content that's going to go out to the world, in my case, that goes out on a YouTube video as just a piece of content. The digital version has no value, but I know when that image goes into a book, it's adding a little bit of value to that book. If I can create another photo book with 150 images in it and a few words to make it into an interesting story, that has value. Depending on who you are, how good you are, the value is going to vary. But I buy loads of photo books. They're a great way to put all your work together and create a physical product that's valuable. I mean, even just the cost of the resources is bringing back that physical, that actual intrinsic value, because it's costing you to create it, which makes you think about it a lot more. You don't want to waste anything. So you might think about printing your best pictures, but what it's done for me over the years is incentivized me with my actual photography in the field to only create print-worthy images. And that's kind of how I try to operate now. And I'm always thinking about trying to make a print rather than making an image. And printing is just so exciting. I've talked about it over and over and over again. But I do think I did fall into the trap of kind of thinking photography is dead. But I think, like I say, we need to put it into two categories. There is the value of a photograph that sort of drives some of the photography industry. And then there's people like me and people like you who just love making images. And it's not really about the money. I do make my living from this, but it's also about telling stories to you. I talked about that on last week's video. I'm creating content about photography. I think that's what I get paid for. And occasionally, part of my revenue is from the physical photography. I think the takeaway for you here is that digital photographs are content. And if you want it to be something that has real value, then bring it into the physical world with a book or a print or that kind of thing. If you become a wedding photographer and you want to make money from photography, then essentially you're providing a service. You're not providing a product. The final image doesn't have much value. And like all wedding photographs, over any period of time back in history, the only people that really care about those photographs are the bride and groom and maybe the parents. Maybe. But that's it. No one else cares. Imagine someone sitting you down to look at their wedding photographs. Is that a good time? No, it's something you got to get through, isn't it? It's something you got to get through. Tell them that the photographs are great, and then you move on. And you'll never look at those photographs again. I don't even look at my own wedding photographs, although I do like them. But like I say, the second part of that is us doing photography, enjoying the experience, being creative just because it feels good, being creative because we love it, going out there, enjoying the landscape, having a great time, socializing with other photographers, talking about our love of it, and monetary value, I don't think needs to come into it. As long as there's a niche of camera companies still making cameras that we enjoy using, because I, to be honest, don't enjoy using the phone for my serious photography. I like having that big camera. As long as there's a few people, a few companies still making those things, then I think we're good to go. And just keep enjoying this thing that we do, staying positive, feeling motivated, not getting dragged down by social media or comparison or anything else that's going to kill our buzz. Yeah, that's it. I'm not feeling very well, so I'm going to go because I can feel my voice going a little bit. But that's it. Let me know what you think down below. It's something I've been thinking about a lot, and I want to keep this channel as positive as possible. So please subscribe, let me know what you think, and I'll see you on another one very, very soon, hopefully outside when I'm feeling better and I'm out there doing landscape photography. Goodbye.